Okay, got it. And Haley?
Can I add a discussion regarding winter COVID protocol?
Can I also add a discussion item regarding a scholarship that I'm hoping that we can do together for students that are experiencing job loss these 2 weeks?
Can you repeat like how I should add that to the agenda?
Maybe just like job loss scholarship.
Got it. And then Jenny?
Hi, can I strike capital contingency?
Yeah. And Tay?
Hi, can I make the SWC updates verbal?
Mm-hmm. And Angie?
Hi, can I strike ASRF allocations and travel grant mini allocations?
Okay, got it. And I think that's all. For Haley and Breeze, are those items like they're not action items, right?
They are not, no.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. I don't know. Do we have to approve last week's, Josh, even though it was last quarter?
We do. And that date was 11/30/2021.
Okay. So can I get an approval of the last agenda, which was November 30th, 2021?
I move to approve the minutes from, or is it agenda or minutes? From November 30th,
So
2021.
Breeze, first we want to approve this agenda.
Okay, yeah.
And
Sorry,
then
can I get a
board minutes from November 30th.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for this week?
Yeah, I move to approve the agenda for January 4th, 2022.
Can I get a second, please?
I second.
Haley motions, Jane seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Awesome. And by a vote of 14-0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. Next, can we go into the approval of the last minutes, which were, as Josh said, November 30th, 2021?
I move to approve the meeting minutes from November 30th of 2021.
Can I get a second, please?
I second.
Cass motion, Sarah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. And by a vote of 14-0, the motion passes and the agenda for November 30th is approved, or the minutes for November 30th are approved. Okay, next we're going into public comment. Public comment is a time for any member of the public to come speak to us as a council and address any issues they want to be heard. Every member of the public has 2 minutes to speak and the opportunity to speak once. Remember to use gender inclusive language, use respectful language. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability. And with that, I open up public comment. If you are a member of the public, please raise your hand and we will promote you. Thank you. Radha, whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, happy winter quarter. It's great to see you all again. I'm Radha, the chapter chair for our CalPERC chapter at UCLA. I hope you have all had a restful and safe winter break. I just wanted to give a quick update on what we are working on this term. So as a state, we voted on making our Beyond Plastics campaign, our LEAP campaign, and we are run by student board of directors who get to vote and decide which issues we prioritize. So we are working to pass a policy to reduce plastic pollution by 75% in California. And it won't be easy because plastic lobbyists spend millions to stop this type of legislation in California, but it makes it that much more important. We are going to be working to collect 2,500 petitions from students on campus, lobby surrounding LA County officials to get them to sign on to the campaign, as well as work to put on big events like a big beach cleanup. And we are also working to make textbooks more affordable, UC-wide, gear up for the 2022 midterm elections to turn out the vote, and work towards 100% clean energy future. And we also kicked off our recruitment drive yesterday to invite students who want to get involved with us. Even though we are virtual these first 2 weeks, we are still off to a great start and on track to getting 100 people to our kickoff meeting week 3. And we'd love to partner with you all on these campaigns, so definitely reach out if you'd like to collaborate. But with that, thank you so much for having me and have a great meeting, y'all.
Thank you so much, Radha. It's always a pleasure to have you. Sachi?
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Nice to see you all. I'm here in like a million different capacities today, but I'm speaking now just like as a student. So I just wanted to encourage all of you as council and encourage you to encourage your offices and the general student body as well to sign up to volunteer for the LA homeless count in Westwood. This is really important because our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness in Westwood don't get counted in the census, don't get counted in a variety of different social surveys, and also the LA homeless count helps determine the amount of funding that Los Angeles County Homeless Services and other agencies will get to provide solutions and support for these people. So currently there's like, I think just a little under 100 spots left to be filled for the vacancies for volunteers, but I know that in years past, like pre-COVID, there's been a really, really strong turnout from, you know, organizations that are looking to fulfill community service requirements and like neighborhood councils and USAC and a lot of different people. So yeah, really consider going. I will drop the link in the chat after this. Also, if you're concerned about like COVID and stuff, which is totally valid, they used to do like an in-person training where you sit in a crowded room for a while, but it's virtual this year. So everything should be like outdoors and relatively COVID safe. But yeah, I will drop the link in the chat and look forward to chatting with you all about other things later tonight.
Thank you, Sachi. Quinn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn O'Connor, and I'm here on behalf of the Disabled Student Union to basically, one, to publicly say and inform everybody that based on the COVID dashboard of UCLA, between December 26th and December 31st, there have been over 300 cases of COVID-19 within just the UCLA student community. And those are just the ones that are reported to UCLA. And I think going off of that, and especially in the university's switch to in-person learning after 2 weeks, I am strongly encouraging you as council to support a dual mode learning so that students are not forced to come to class sick or come to class at risk of contracting the Omicron variant specifically, because it is quite a contagious variant. And I, as somebody who has recently tested positive for this variant specifically, can say firsthand that it breaks. I am boosted and I am fully vaccinated, and it still broke through to even me, who is incredibly careful for the most part, in my opinion. So I really urge you all to talk to administration, talk to your offices as well, to push for that dual mode instruction that the Disabled Student Union has been pushing for since August, with a collective 30,000 plus signatures from UCLA health employees, UCLA undergrads, UCLA grad students, UCLA professors, UCLA faculty staff, and UC affiliated students and faculty across the state. So yeah, I think that UCLA needs to stop valuing profits over case numbers for yesterday, which they still have not done, and it is currently 7:10 p.m. Pacific time the day after. So please just push UCLA to be more transparent in their COVID case reporting in general, as well as providing dual modes of instructions for its vulnerable students, staff, faculty, and family members of UCLA community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Quinn, and I hope you feel better soon. Sachi?
Sorry, that is an old hand.
No worries. Okay. Public comment going once, going twice, and thank you for putting that link in there. Great. And with that, I close public comment at 7:12 p.m. Moving straight into funding. Contingency?
Hi, okay, so this week we have, let me drop the link in the chat. We have $8,868 in funding to 16 non-USAC entities. So let me put that in. And if you saw my messages in the Slack, I mentioned that we are no longer funding any in-person events for the first 2 weeks of classes. So as long as classes are virtual, we are not able to fund any in-person events. And that applies to events that may have already been funded for. So SGA and all the different funding bodies are working on basically like pausing like reimbursements on all in-person events, just to make sure that everyone is following COVID protocols. And we're just trying to go as we learn with the university policies as well.
Thank you so much, Jenny, and I agree with that. Okay, can someone motion, please?
I move to appoint or to approve $8,868 to 16 non-USAC entities.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
I believe that was Emily. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Armand motions, Emily seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Momina, sorry. You might not be getting good Wi-Fi. By a vote of 13-0, the motion passes and the contingency programming for this week is approved. Moving on to SWC programming, Tay.
I'm so sorry, y'all. I forgot to scrap this.
No worries. Sarah, Bruin Advocacy Group.
Hi, can I strike bag actually, please?
Of course. ARC, Tom.
Also striking ARC. Sorry, came a little late.
No worries. TGIF.
Hi, so for TGIF, the announcement is that Student Support Fund is now open and it closes week 3 Friday. So please tell anybody in your offices and anybody you know to apply. So Student Support Fund is a $500 like one-time stipend that students who are doing sustainability work or environmental justice work on campus can apply to and receive. Like, so if they're in like a club that does like something engineering that's related to sustainability, or a cultural org that has environmental justice impacts, they are more than welcome to apply. And if they have any questions, they can reach out to me, but I will drop the link in the chat. So please encourage everyone you know to apply. And yeah, it doesn't have to be like traditional sustainability work too, as long as it is work that benefits sustainability and environmental justice on campus.
Thank you so much, Jane. Okay, perfect. So no special presentations or appointments, going straight into officer reports. So, I mean, as y'all know, it's been kind of a very busy time for myself, just with everything that happened and the going remote those last 2 weeks. I guess like I can talk about like the task force a bit, and like what we've been discussing. So as we posted based off like the meetings I had yesterday, LA County indicated that they will not push for the closure of any K through 12 through like higher education, because of quote unquote, there needs to be a certain amount of like people that are hospitalized. And they said if it does reach 3,000, that is when at any sporting venues within LA County, if there are over 3,000 hospitalizations, they ask for like proof of vaccination, which is what UCLA is doing at this time for any games. But as y'all know, like the game that was also going to happen on the 5th has also been postponed until the 15th. So who knows there, I think it's also because of COVID cases that are happening within like sporting venues. So they did say that, and I'm sure Angie might be able to talk more on this, but Academic Senate is encouraging a hybrid model to professors. And again, I think that all of us as USAC should really kind of work on some sort of draft. I know PASA worked on one, but you know, in the past, AAC also would draft some sort of email that students can send to their professors in order for them to be accommodating and offer this hybrid model. And I think that it's important that we inform the student bodies so that they can begin this in advance, and that, you know, the day of, professors aren't kind of taken aback and they kind of know that their students might be expecting some sort of remote learning. Because I do know that like in my own case, like I had one class already and we were told, oh, you'll have to go back in person in 2 weeks, like as soon as UCLA allows it. But so many people are testing positive. So it's kind of very worrisome that that's happening. We were also informed that UCLA still remains on like what they are saying is like the lower end of the COVID-19 decision matrix on all metrics other than like the case rate, which again is an issue because I know probably a lot of y'all know a lot of people that are getting sick right now. And it's very, again, worrisome, not only for ourselves, but because of everyone, our faculty members, like professors, everyone that we can get sick, even if we might not experience it as negatively. And also the long-term effects of it all, which are very bad. And we don't know that much about. And finally, if students are unable to get tested in Westwood by the January 18th deadline, they should contact the ASH Center to obtain a deferral. The deferral can be up to 2 weeks. So any students that might be running late or have like any trip issues, they need to make sure that they contact the ASH Center immediately. If students have not obtained a booster shot, even if they're not in LA at this time, they can schedule one again through the ASH Center. And there will be some sort of time frame where a student will not face repercussions. We have not talked about what the repercussions will be if the student does not receive the booster mandate, but right now we're just really going to encourage everyone within the student body to get their booster mandates so that we can have a safer return. And that is all that has been going on COVID related within my office. So yeah, that's all for me for right now. And I'll hand it off to Cass.
Thank you, Breeze.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Do you want to continue? Okay.
Yeah, one more thing. So Megan and I have been planning a task force. Well, we were gonna have one since winter break, but she was on a trip, so we didn't end up having it then. But Megan, alongside Tay as a collaborator and myself, will be hoping to host a COVID-19 town hall, which if any of y'all would like to collaborate, feel free to like reach out to me. And we look to be hosting that hopefully next Thursday around 5 p.m. So yeah, that is it. Okay, Cass, sorry about that.
Thank you. Okay, from the IVP office, a lot of what we're doing is just finalizing plans for the remaining of this quarter. But some things that we've been working on is the Truber and Ray's scholarship with Case Management Services and the Dean of Students. So the application is still out right now. I'm going to send it in the chat in case y'all wanted to send that to your office or want to nominate any students that helped you in a crisis. So that's due January 14th, and we're currently in the process of moving the entire ceremony to be virtual rather than in person, just because we feel like it'll be more accessible and just safer, even though it would be taking place after the whole 2-week thing. On top of that, the IVP office has a collab with a FICOM chair, and it's a Q&A funding panel, and it's this Wednesday, January 5th from 7 to 8 p.m. So please share like any like graphics or like flyers, because I know that a lot of student orgs have been emailing me about like funding and like in-person events and stuff. Yeah, and then finally, sorry, I'm like looking at my notes, but I am confused. Okay, my office hours for this quarter will be online, and it's Wednesdays from 1 to 2. Okay, and then I'll pass it off to Sarah.
Thanks, Cass. Starting with my office, we have apps for our winter fellowship out currently. They are due on January 9th, so please encourage anyone you know that might be interested to apply. We also have a few upcoming opportunities to get involved in student advocacy. So our UCSA Students of Color Conference has been moved from UC Davis to an online format just because of COVID. It's going to be from January 29th to the 30th. And now that we don't have like travel funding constraints, like pretty much if you want to join, like just send an application, you'll be able to hop on to that call. We also have a Black Lobby Day coming up at the state capitol. It's farther in the future, like going to be spring quarter, so hopefully that will still be online. My office will cover like all of your expenses, like housing, food, transportation, so don't let that be a barrier to signing up. And the link I will drop in just a second in this chat, so please send that to any Black students you know who might be interested. As for the UCSA space, we're having our upcoming January board meeting this Saturday and Sunday. Just going over some campaign check-ins for the 4 standing campaigns. And we're also working on establishing a guaranteed seat as a student advocate to the regents for the UC Undocu Coalition, just so that they have like a permanent platform to advocate for themselves for. I don't really see that not being passed, so it's like I'll update you guys at next week's meeting. And then, well, speaking of stars, the applications to become a student advocate to the regents are open again, so I will drop that link as well. And then just for transparency, we had our budget consultation call with UCSA, and we're currently considering a $6 million ask for the Save the UC former foster youth services. This would cover 2 full-time staff, a part-time academic counselor, a few student assistants, $30K for operations, and $2.5K per student for direct student support. So if you have any like students who are particularly willing to share their testimonies about this, like please send them my way, and their story could be super useful if they're willing to share. That's all that is going on in the advocacy world in my realm, so I'll pass it over to Angie.
Thanks, Sarah. So as for COVID-related things, over winter break, I sent out a letter to the Academic Senate asking for hybrid options in winter quarter and for immediate transparency about whether classes will be remote for winter quarter. And they responded with the notice that the first 2 weeks will be remote, as you all are probably aware by now. And they also stated that they encourage departments to record their lectures after the 2-week mark, as Breeze said earlier, but that individual departments are still left to mainly decide for themselves whether they will require professors to record or not, or encourage professors to record. And there have been some departments I've heard that are telling professors to return completely to in-person without recording lectures. So my office has been advocating for greater remote options along with DSU and FAC. We had a meeting today with the Center for Advancement on Teaching to discuss ways that we can work with them to deliver workshops and trainings to professors and faculty to communicate why hybrid learning is so important and why universal accommodations are so important, especially now when like students are really needing these alternative modes of accessing lectures because of the high cases that we're seeing on campus and around Westwood. And we also discussed ways that they can best encourage professors to deliver these online options to students who don't feel comfortable coming to class or who are feeling sick. And in that same realm, to also highlight the professors that have been really accommodating and demonstrated a willingness to make their courses accessible. So as to like provide sort of an example for other faculty. And in addition to that, we will also be launching a sort of like social media campaign in partnership with the CAT and with the DCP and DSU, in fact, with tips on how students can approach their professors for accommodations and for recorded material, because sometimes students might feel just like very lost on how they can best advocate for themselves. So we're hoping that these tips can help empower students to take agency over their learning and approach their professors for accommodations. And then early on in December, I facilitated a meeting between parenting students, the TSR, and some members of UGC to discuss winter accommodations for parenting students. And a need for hybrid learning for them as well. And we are currently in contact with the Bruin Resource Center and with the CAE to try to institutionalize long-term accommodations for parenting students who are currently and who have been facing significant challenges during the pandemic. And then as for, I guess, my accountability and transparency team, they have been working with my Disability Justice and Education Committee to analyze the data from the survey on hybrid learning that AAC released earlier on in fall quarter. And they have compiled some testimony from different student groups, which has been linked in some letters to admin, including in DSU's petition for increased remote learning. And in the one that we will be reviewing later on tonight. And my accountability and transparency team also released a post on the full transition to Canvas for winter quarter. And we will also be releasing another guide with some common FAQs about Canvas and Brew and Learn that we've been getting on our end. And then my study space committee is working with a company called OccuSpace to show the percent capacity within Powell libraries and potentially other libraries on campus through an app called Waits University. And Waits is actually being used currently to show the capacity of each dining hall on campus. So we're working with UCLA Dining to publicize that and get that rolling as well. And then a post for Brew and Op was released over winter break, and that's continually being updated with opportunities and other resources. And our Books for Bruins app was also released tonight for winter quarter. I think that's it from me. Yeah. Thank you all. Sorry, that was a really long officer report.
No worries, Angie. Ugh, I'm always so proud of you. That's my AAC. Great. Okay. And I believe Tay wanted to give a verbal report as well, right?
Yes. Okay. So basically, I just wanted to promote. Oh, my bad, Breeze.
Oh,
Were you
no,
gonna say something?
No, I said perfect.
Okay, I just wanted to promote the You Belong Here campaign. It has officially started. I'm gonna drop our handles in the chat so that y'all can follow it on Instagram. But basically, We just are striving to raise awareness for the imposter phenomenon and share methods of how to work against it. For this campaign, we're really looking at BIPOC students, parenting students, transfer students, any students who have had their belonging questioned, like this campaign is for them. We're going to need models for the ad campaign and more helping hands on the campaign itself. So if you want to get involved, please DM me, like please DM me. Or also drop like a interest quote unquote application on our Instagram. So if y'all want to share it with your offices, that would be amazing. I also wanted to add that majority of the SWC committees are recruiting right now. So if you're looking to get involved in health and wellness initiatives, feel free to check out swc.ucla.edu. I'll also put that in the chat so you can apply. I also have a lot more updates, but I'm going to hyperlink my additional updates to the agenda so like folks can read through them later. But yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you so much, Tay. Really appreciate all the work you always do. Great. Okay, so we're moving straight into admin recs. Jessica?
Breeze, Jessica's still on leave.
I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. George?
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. No updates from me.
Great. Josh?
Happy New Year, everyone. Just a reminder, again, we have to push this as hard as we can, but again, no in-person meetings or gatherings can take place in the first 2 weeks. So please make sure that you all are supporting and encouraging that as well as making sure that everyone is getting their booster shot. So vaccinated on our campus will soon be the 2 shots plus the booster. So if we can help spread that, that would be most ideal. That's it.
Yeah, and just to back up off that, as of right now, 10,000 of our Bruins have received their booster shot. So we need to continue to push for everyone to receive it. Thank you, Josh. Moving straight to Orlando.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Just off of what everyone has been saying, a lot of student organizations also may be having a lot of questions about the first 2 weeks, especially those that have scheduled programming. Please, if you know any of them, please direct them to SOL and their SOL advisor. So the SOL advisor can help them navigate those 2 weeks as far as cancellations, rescheduling, getting refunds. Student groups won't be held accountable for any fees or deposits they have dropped. They will get everything back. So if they have any questions, feel free to please send them to the SOL advisors. And that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you, Orlando. It might also be good. I don't know if folks are interested in collaborating with Orlando as like USAC and like also posting, because I know that there have been several student groups that have like asked that to like our president's page, and it might be helpful for other students that might have questions on it. So if anyone's interested in working on that or leading on that, I think it would be a great idea. Great. Fernando. I might take you up on that, Fernando. I have a few things I need to finish, so thank you. Patty, and then no, wait, yeah, Patty. I don't know if Patty's here.
Everyone, Happy New Year. Look forward to talking a little bit more in the meeting in regards to the surplus and go over the budget. So you'll hear a lot from me tonight. But I want to just quickly echo what Fernando just said. I will also make myself available to support, especially if we're looking at doing any surplus projects. We can talk through the logistics to streamline, because it does have a direct impact on your resources, your administrative support. So it's really important that you do talk to us in regards to these projects, because sometimes we can streamline the ways that we move it forward to make sure that we have the resources to support all these ideas that are coming through. So just keep that in mind. So just shoot us an email and we can coordinate our schedules for that as well. But yeah, glad everyone is back and look forward to talking a little more in the later in the agenda.
Thank you, Patty. Patty's been working with me really closely on this, so thank you so much for all the work you do. Great. Old business, done. New business. Great. For new business, we have a resolution calling for a direct UCLA/Westwood Purple Line. Miss Jane, you have the floor.
Jane just texted saying that her computer went dark. I don't know what that means, but I assume that means that she can't answer. Oh, just kidding.
What was the question? Sorry.
Oh, no, it's your turn for the resolution.
Oh, great. Okay. Fernando, would you be able to share screen? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Fernando. Okay, so basically this resolution is to call for a direct UCLA Westwood Purple Line stop on the Sepulveda Transit Corridor. So if you're not aware, like LA Metro is starting to plan out, I believe, like future transit stops for the Metro, and they have a couple of different options, and only some of them include a direct stop at UCLA, and this is just advocating for one with a direct stop at UCLA because it's really important for people who, like, a lot of staff travel in to UCLA to work, and for them to have like high quality public transportation to UCLA is super important. So I will give everyone some time to read this, and then if people have questions. Okay, awesome. If people are done reading, I believe Sachi also has more information on explaining the advocacy in general. So Sachi, go for it.
Yes, hello again. Just to provide like a little bit more context on the advocacy that has gone into calling for a direct stop at UCLA. There's like kind of an informal group of students that both graduate and undergraduate students, and then also including like professors and alumni. So kind of just a random group of people, but a relatively large group that has been calling into Metro board meetings to get them to include a stop. And this has been like kind of a long process, but we were ultimately like pretty disappointed with some of the alternatives that were presented in Metro's like official notice of preparation for this project. Just to like explain them, one of them, or so three of them are monorail proposals, which has a lot of like equity and sustainability issues outside of the fact that they don't have a direct UCLA stop, but also the proposals for having a stop at UCLA would include, having a stop near like Westwood Park, and then literally having like a Disney style tram run down gaily like onto Bruin Walk. It's like super ugly, in addition to being like really inconvenient and weird. And then there's also like a proposal to add a bus line from the VA to get to UCLA, but all of these things like kind of decrease transit ridership and make it difficult for students and staff and faculty and medical patients to be able to access all of the amenities that UCLA has. So yeah, lots of reasons to be behind this, in addition to USAC's and UCLA's kind of longstanding support for bringing public transportation to UCLA as kind of a point of equity for commuter students and staff and everyone else. Yeah, happy to also answer questions if people have them.
Thank you so much, Sachi. Does anyone have any questions for Jane, Sachi? If not, thank you so much. Does anyone have any comments in general? Can I get a motion?
I move to approve a resolution calling for a direct UCLA Westwood Purple Line stop on the Sepulveda Transit Corridor.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Tay motions, Armand seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. And by a vote of 14 to 0 to 0, the motion passes. And the resolution for calling for a direct line between UCLA Westwood Purple Line stop on the Sepulveda Transit Corridor is approved. Thank you so much for all of y'all who worked on this. Moving straight to the CS Mini Fund, we have Sachi again and Momina.
Hello. Wait, is Mary? I think Mary is in the attendees. Can we promote her?
Yeah, I'll promote her.
Awesome.
Oh.
Mary will start us off for the presentation.
Yes, hello. Am I able to share my screen? Sorry, I'm still trying to share a screen. Sachi, do you think you'll be able to share the screen?
Yes, I can do that now. Give me 1 second. We want to share the document that you have first, right, Mary?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, so hi, I'm Mary. I'm the chair of the Community Service Mini Fund Committee. So we want to present our new application process that should be a lot more accessible, easy to follow, easy to submit than the previous application that was through MyUCLA. So at the top, we just have some information on our funding periods, as well as what we've defined a community service program as. Sachi, if you could scroll down a little. Oh, wait, up a little bit, sorry. We want to let everyone know as well that while the deadline is for this quarter on the 28th of January, we also will be holding office hours week 2 and week 3 if anyone has any questions. You can scroll down. So we felt like the information that was given about the community service mini fund and what we fund and don't fund was a little bit unclear. So we hoped to clarify it a little bit more here and make some examples of what we fund and do not fund. Also at the bottom of this page, we have a link to a couple more very specific guidelines that we've also updated, which Sachi will share more about next. So below will be our actual application. So all the organizations will have to do is fill out each section of this application and download it and email it to me at csminifund@gmail.com. And something to note is definitely that you have to get it approved by your advisor first. And we thought that this would also be a much easier way because you can just email it to your advisor rather than a lot of different technical things that happen through MyUCLA. And we've also added the option to upload your own budget spreadsheet instead of the one that MyUCLA makes for you. And that is the application.
Cool. Sorry, Breeze, I saw you unmute. We're not done yet.
Wait.
Cool. We also revised the CS mini fund like actual guidelines. And I am unsure if this needs to be voted on or if this is a consent item for you all. And if it can't, oh, sorry, Fernando. Okay, cool, great. Well, I will present them now. So just for reference, the CS mini fund guidelines hadn't been updated since 2009. So we have relatively significantly updated them, focusing mainly on how we defined community service, as Mary mentioned, and then just a few more of the guidelines on like the kind of projects that are prioritized and that we look for. So just to read through the change definition, the new definition now is that a student community service program is defined as a student program, activity, or service which advocates for, assists, and or provides direct services for underserved populations by addressing a range of concerns such as education, poverty, food and housing insecurity, mental and physical health, social and racial justice, and more. Under these guidelines, community service includes but is not limited to serving communities both within UCLA and outside of it. So this definition was just updated to have, first of all, language that we felt like reflected the nature of a positive definition of community service, which is like working with communities and groups instead of for them. Does that make sense? And yeah, it just was a little bit more specific and expansive as well. I guess those two words are kind of opposites, but it's more specific in the types of things that are listed, but expansive in terms of like, there's a larger list of things here. That makes sense. The next addition that we made to the guidelines is just to expedite the process of appointments to the committee. So, you know, the way that the guidelines are structured is that ideally we have members from CSC and from CPO, but sometimes like by nature of the amount of applications from those different organizations, like that is sometimes almost impossible. So we kind of added this line, like if there's a genuine attempt on behalf of the council to solicit applications from these groups, but there aren't enough eligible applicants, then the USAC can, you know, appoint applicants from the general undergraduate student body. That's that. And then these are just updates to be in line with that. We also changed the starting term of office to be September 1st for the chair and September 15th for the committee, just to give us like a little bit of extra time to get settled before the year begins. And then this section under eligible organizations, these changes are just in line with the definition that I just shared. But then these factors for consideration are a little bit edited. So we changed this line about an orientation towards post-secondary education to be promoting post-secondary education, including community college. We changed this thing about innovation and uniqueness to meaningfully address the needs of underserved populations, and then also provide a service that might not be available otherwise. We eliminated the guideline of uniqueness because we felt that sometimes there is an issue which requires a variety of different groups working towards it. So we didn't feel like uniqueness was necessarily a good factor, but that's that. This is just kind of a grammatical thing, like CSP is now sole, so we changed that. And if I'm not wrong, I think that is it. Yeah. Oh, and the last thing that we did, sorry, at the end, is we just added a note that these COVID-19 additional updates that last year's community service mini fund implemented, where it would be reapproved for the 2021-2022 school year, since obviously we are still in a pandemic. But that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sachi. Since this is just a consent item, is there any opposition? If not, thank you so much, Sachi. We really appreciate all the work that both yourself and Mary have done with this. Thank you. Okay, great. So moving straight into USAC surplus discussion. Yeah, I think if Patty's here, perfect.
Hi, Breeze. Do you want me to start? Do you want to me just go through it? Did you have any things you want? Feel free to pipe in anytime. Okay, does that work? Or?
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Okay, so I'll start it off, and then if you have anything you want to add. Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for talking to us today about the USAC surplus. I know we've talked a lot about surplus throughout summer as well in fall, and we are able to allocate some great projects already at the beginning, and you'll see that a little bit today. So my goal is, now that we have all the finalized numbers, is to go through the surplus. I'm going to kind of explain the various sections and then let you all know kind of how it's set up for allocations. There's a section that's based on your bylaws, so I'll go through that, and then also what is exactly available for additional projects if you want to move forward with projects, and some other ways that you can utilize the surplus funds as well. And we'll also talk a little bit of restricted surplus. So there's going to be a lot we're going to chat about tonight. It looks like it's an action item, so Breeze, you can let me know. The two things that I think that we should be voting on first, so we can choose if we want to do that this week, or we can also do that next week, and are items that wouldn't be necessarily changing. So the restricted surplus, and if you want to follow your bylaws without changing those. But I'll go through all of that. I just wanted to give you a brief overview prior to diving in, because I know the document can look a little complicated. We're going to walk through really slow, and please raise hands, ask questions throughout. I'm happy to go through that. Perfect. So I'm going to share screen. So every year, our accounting team works really, really hard with collecting all of the recs, all of your payments for all the programming and events throughout our student government USA. This also includes all of the funds that are allocated to delegated funds across campus. And then also for student organizations. So we work really closely with some various student organizations that have accounts throughout student government accounting. So I'm just going to kind of go through this. This is our beginning balance at the beginning of our 2021 year. Our revenue, as you can see here, a little a little under 11 million, which is our revenues brought in the 2021 year for all referendums. This also includes money that, and I'll go through that, that's also restricted money. For example, money that's received from donations or project. Oh, hi, Promise. Can you?
Yeah, I was just about to type it. Is there a link to the spreadsheet? I can't really see it very well.
Oh, let me. Breeze, I sent this to you in an email. I don't know if we can add this to the Google. Because it might take me a little bit of time to get a link, if that's possible, Breeze. I can resend it if you need me to.
Yeah, let me look for it right now.
Okay. And I can also quickly forward it to Fernando if you want. Oh, thanks, Fernando.
I have it as well. I'll go ahead and make it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And just forwarded Fernando as well. Just to... Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Breeze. And then we also then subtract out all the total expenses. So what I was saying is this also includes revenue that's received from other donations in campus organizations, for example, funding for Dance Marathon or various other programs, and some examples for that. And then, so this is kind of where our little kind of explains it. At the year end is the difference between our income expenses and our net revenue at the close. So we worked really hard to get every single requisition, everything through and all audited. And now we're able to kind of show you all these exact numbers. So the first section I want to talk to you about a little bit is restricted surplus and kind of what that means, and then how we then carry over these funds. So this would be something that we usually would vote on first, because we want our student organizations and also our different USAC councils to be able to activate and utilize this funding. For example, BOD has some funding that they'll be able to then tap into. So the earlier we're able to vote on this. So sometimes when we're doing our surplus projects, kind of can take a couple weeks to get all those votes in. And last year, it kind of slowed down some of our funding bodies because we weren't able to activate their funds. So this would be this, and what it is restricted surplus. So what that means is carryover from the previous year that goes back to the purpose of those funds originally. So for example, BOD carryover, that's the board of directors. That is the funding received from ASU CLA Services and Enterprises to help give funding to USAC programming, BOD USA programming fund. So instead of that funding going to surplus, it's been mandated that that funding remain into that fund, if that makes sense. Others is other income and donations. So this would be income that comes into SGA that is not part of referendum. So let's say a student group does, or a USAC group does a movie night and they charge for tickets, or they have a concert. This can also be donations for a community service project that received donations to do a program. So that we would want to make sure continues on and carries into those student organizations, into those pockets. There's a couple of things here that we have line items for, but as you can see, they're zeroed out. So event registration income, special event income. So that's kind of similar if they're selling tickets at a particular event. And then that kind of all lumps into this prior year other income. So other income sources, donations, subscriptions, sponsorship, event registration. So this is little pots of money that kind of get spread out. We have like over 1,000 student organizations, accounts that we have that are receiving a little bit. Maybe it's not 1,000, I have to get the exact number. The very big number of student organization account numbers that will receive some of this surplus. And then we also have our CSC Transportation Fund that part of their referendum spoke to returning that fund, in their MOU spoke to returning that fund to those transportation needs. So then that's going back in. And then the same with TGIF, because a lot of their projects span over more than 1 year. And so part of the referendum, those get carried over as part of their guiding documents. Jane?
Yeah, I had a question. I'm not sure if this is the right place, but I think there's supposed to be restricted surplus from the Disability Cultural Center from back when Lily
Yep, I'm gonna get
was
there.
back. Oh, okay, cool.
It's right here. So there's kind of like there's two spots. So this is money that we have to put into accounts. And then we also have surplus projects that are also going to get carried over. So we have that kind of in that pocket, if that makes sense. Perfect. So that has not been lost. That we'll see a little bit further down. So that is all the carryovers that will be going into back to the owners of those funds. And so that would be something that we would be voting on. Then we have the accumulated reserve. So there is in our bylaws that we have to reserve a 5%, just always kind of going back to the reserve in case there's any buffer or anything that we need in addition. So this is, as you see, per the bylaws section C for surplus funds. We have to take a portion of that and return back in case there's fees or there's anything additional that we're able to put that back into our reserves. And then this is the next section. So this is your remaining surplus. But first, these are these projects that you've already funded. So Jane, this is exactly what you were just mentioning. You had the FSC Disability Cultural Center Fund. So we took all of the various projects that you've already voted on or that carried over from the previous year, excuse me. And we're subtracting this as well. Emily?
Okay.
Just curious, what's that FSC Disability Cultural Center Fund?
I think that's supposed to be under FAC, Patty.
Oh, great. That is easy enough to change. And then Fernando, can you make note of that to make sure that that was communicated correctly to Vong and team? Okay. These are just our markers of it. So we'll just have to, I'll double check that it's put into the correct account, which this should have already been placed in that account. So I'll double check to make sure it didn't accidentally get put in FSC and that it was put in FAC. But anyway, let's make a note of that just to double check that there's no confusion there. Quinn?
Or I'm sorry. I think the reason why it was FSC, I believe, is because when that check was originally voided by Student Affairs back in the last school year, Deborah Geller and Maria Blandisi accidentally labeled it as FSC money and didn't care to know that it was from FAC. So I think that's why that accounting issue happened, but hopefully, yeah, we'll be able to clear it up pretty easily.
Thank you, Quinn. That's really helpful. And then we'll double check on our end that it's in the correct location. But these are just written markers for us to communicate what everything's for. So it doesn't have any impact on those dollars. And then, oh, Fernando, were you going to say something? Were you able to check? Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. We'll make sure it's in the right place. So we want to make sure that's under FAC. Is that correct? Great. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Pat.
Of course. So this has all of the projects that have been funded this year so far. So you probably see some ones that you recognize. We are pulling this a lot from your agendas. So if you notice anything that is inaccurate, please let me know and I'll make those adjustments. But all these numbers should have already been transferred into your accounts at this time. But this is where we will add additional projects if you're interested in adding more projects. Any questions on this section so far? Okay, perfect. So then we have what's remaining. So after our initial budget, the deduction of expenses and non-recurrent income expenses, then all of the restricted surplus that have to go back to their rightful owners based on language in their MOUs, referendum, or if they received money from outside. And then by the bylaws, that small percentage that has to go back to reserves. And then we also have all of your projects you funded. There is a remainder. Based on your bylaws, it says to essentially have a cap of $150,000 that gets allocated into these 3 channels based on these percentages. So 45% go to USAC BOD, 12% goes to capital contingency, and then the remainder goes to standard programming contingency. So, this has been the bylaws for some time. One of the reasons that was initially placed on the bylaws is it helps the funding bodies have an understanding of what to expect on their funding levels and not have these high swings, highs and lows in regards to surplus availability. Because some years you'll have a big surplus. We're having a very big surplus this year because last year was a very unique year, and then some years would have lower surpluses. And we found that when there's big swings in funding, there was a feeling of, well, last year we had so much more money available and this year we don't. So we found that it's easier if we kind of even them out. But again, this is just per your bylaw. If you want to make any adjustments, then that would be something you just have to take an additional vote to suspend bylaws, but it is something that is available to you if you want to adjust this calculation or this maximum amount. So after doing the calculation per the bylaws, there is a total remaining surplus of $566,284.63 for you all to do for projects. We've had times where you want to invest in your endowment, the USAC endowment, go towards, if you want to utilize and put more towards various areas of these programming line items, that's kind of up to you and where your discretion is as a council. But we wanted to just bring this forward. So the things that we have the opportunity, if you want to, promise.
Oh, you can finish. I was just going to ask if we were also going to cover the endowment.
So yes, so that would, okay. So if you see the endowment is here, we don't put a set amount to be put into the endowment. This would, you mean cover as explained in more detail?
Yeah, and I guess like how much is in there currently as well, because I know that like we can't, like USAC members can't utilize it for like our own organizations, but we can for other things.
Sure. Yes.
So, and I think like it's important for folks to know that, especially since there's been a lot of stuff with the CRC SIOC, and we're trying to make sure folks are still getting paid. So like there's like also room there, so I think would be important.
So there is the USAC endowment. I have to look up and I'll have to get back to you on exactly how much is currently in the endowment. I don't have the numbers off the on hand right now, so I will get that to you by next meeting. But how it works is the more that you invest in your endowment, we receive a dividend on our endowment that you can choose to reinvest and grow your endowment each year. So essentially, or you can take those dividends. So for example, if you have $1 million in your endowment, and well, now I have to do the math. I'm sure someone can do the math better than I am. And let's say your dividend is 5% or 7%, you can then take that dividend out and let's say have an additional, I'm not using the right number, but let's say $50,000 that you can then pull out and add to one of these funding. And that was the initial goal of starting this endowment, because sometimes surplus is it's hard to depend on surplus, because some years the funds are really activated to the full extent and you won't have as much to go into some of these funding bodies. And so having some consistent funding that you can pull from, and if you grow your endowment, then that amount goes from 50 to 100, and it always will be growing with you, and therefore always be able to give out this this dividend percentage. So council members, it was David Bocarsley year, I believe, and Tamir, who I can't remember what position he was now, maybe SWC, no, it wasn't SWC. Anyway, Tamir and David really wanted to create this because they wanted to create this legacy that USAC was able to pay into, help cover some of these big spikes that would happen in surplus at times, and then grow this endowment that has, consistent funding that can be tapped into. So I know that over the years, we've been trying to grow the endowment to get it to a larger amount that the dividend makes more of an impact. Does that make sense, Promise? Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of
it was
course.
very helpful last year when Roy also explained it, but I know like a lot of council members have no idea, and it was like a surprise to us all last year as well. So I think it's just
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Like I remember at first when they're bringing it up, I didn't understand it very well either. And then they're talking about some of these Ivy League schools, and they're like, they have these very large endowments where they're able to fund most of their operations on just their dividends. So it's like your money's paying you back every year, which is really cool. And this is also ran through UCLA Foundation. And they've worked really well with us in the past and helping us kind of activate those funds. And it is towards student programming efforts. Fernanda, do you know any of the projects that have received the funding in the past? I can't think of any off the top of my head. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't think of any of them, but I'll try and think of bring in some examples for the next meeting, have a little more information so you guys can make even more educated decision on that. So sometimes if let's say we have this remaining surplus and you've activated all the projects you want to activate, and there's a remainder, then that's another option of utilizing those funds. So that is kind of surplus in a quick, top view overview. I'm happy to go dive in deeper into any specific details. So what I'm thinking is, and again, Breeze, I want this to be more of a discussion with council, is probably over the next couple weeks, you may be bringing up projects that you may want to present to council that we would then pull from and put into this project line item. And then once we decided, okay, we're done allocating our projects, we can then vote to finalize and vote on the final surplus numbers. So what I was mentioning earlier about doing 2 votes is to have an initial vote where we're voting on the items that we don't have flexibility to change, right? So the BOD carryover will remain the $19,529.82. Right? So if we want to vote for the restricted surplus at an earlier time frame, I would say probably next week, this will activate your budget review director to be able to utilize those funds this year to give to students. So if we wait till we figure out all of our projects before we vote on the restricted surplus, it makes it difficult for projects to carry over with their events because this money hasn't been transferred to their accounts until you have the vote. Does that make sense? And so figuring out the projects might take a little bit more time. So this definitely came up last year, especially with TGIF, where a couple of the projects were waiting for their carryover to be able to finish or to be able to give those reimbursements. And so, we can recommend we can do a vote on restricted. And if you don't want to make changes to your bylaw, we could vote on this at this, earlier, and then finalize the final surplus numbers with the projects. Is that clear? I know it's a couple of steps, but. Perfect.
So Patty, question, if that's the case, can tonight Pasa and I still present, or like it just wouldn't be voted on tonight, right?
I leave that to you, Breeze, as head of council to determine how you want to move forward. Usually in past, we will at times, sorry, I was reading too many things. Okay, usually in the past, we'd have, let's say, everyone be able to present their projects. So then a frame of reference if there's any changes you have to make on the project allocation. but that's completely up to council how you want to move forward. There's times where we'll vote on a project. Like for example, over the summer, we voted on Brew and Bash, but we didn't wait to see other projects before voting on that, right? So
Yeah. Or like Books for Bruins, I think like it depends on the urgency of the project.
exactly. So I think that that's up to your discretion how you want to vote on the surplus. I'm just here to present what the numbers are. But in regards to voting and how you want to present and when you want to have votes, I leave that entirely up to you all. Jane?
Yeah, I have a question. I guess it's kind of like an ask for everyone. Would it be possible for us to vote, or let me know if it's not possible, to vote on restricted surplus today if like there's nothing you can do to change it? I'm just asking because I know, I mean, like selfishly for TGIF, we're trying to do support fund and we have like a lot of large applications coming in like now, and if there's nothing we can do to change restricted surplus anyways, I feel like it'd be better to vote earlier so that we can use the money earlier to start funding student projects.
Oh, Jane, yes, if that's something you all are interested in doing, it was placed on the agenda as an action item. I think that would be fine to have that vote. But again, I leave that up to the discretion of council. Promise.
I wanted to ask, like, would it be possible to vote on like one line item of the restricted surplus and then like the rest next week? If folks want to take a moment to kind of just like go through everything.
Yeah, it does not have to all be voted on all at once, if that's something that you would be interested in. We just have to keep record of it because we just want to make sure that we just need to be clear on the motion so we can pivot, relay that to our accounting department when they're making that.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, if we could vote on the two TGIF line items today, that would be great if people are comfortable with that. If not, it's okay.
Yeah, and then just so I just want to show as well, you know, some of these, the other income and donations and contributions, and sponsorship income, prior year other income, for example. These funds, they could also be student organizations. So for example, dance marathon, other campus club organizations are in this pool as well. Let's say if they have fundraisers of any kind, just so you're aware. Promise.
Just a clarification question on what you just said. So the other income or prior year other income, it's already allocated, right, to like the clubs that it. So who allocates it?
So it's not transferred into their accounts for them to be able to tap into until it's voted on.
Okay, but they already know that like that those funds exist for them and like whatever the amount is. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they should have an understanding. Let's say if they had carryover from or remainders last year, that they should be expecting that they have it. So yeah, I think that's fine either way. I just want to let you know this kind of lumps up all of the small pockets of donation into one, larger sum. If that makes sense. And that's why where it says here, other income sources, donations, special events, subscriptions, sponsorship, event registration, grants, etc. But yeah, I think, either way is definitely fine.
We allowed to motion?
Yeah, can I get a motion, please?
I motion to approve the restricted surplus. Do I have to say the amount?
Oh, here, I'll pull it up.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not sharing. I'm so sorry. I pulled it up for myself. There you go.
Thank you. I motion to approve the restricted surplus amount of 1,008,000. Oh, no, that's, oh, is that? Oh, it is. Okay, $1,008,635.82.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
I second.
Thomas motions, Haley seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Great. By a vote of 11 to 0, the motion passes. And I don't know what this would be. The amendment is approved. I don't know if it's an amendment to it. Great. Okay. Were there any other things that folks wanted to change for right now, or do folks want to continue to look at the funding this week and then talk more about it next week when they bring forth proposals?
I prefer to take a look. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I said I'd prefer to like wait a week and just be able to like take a look at it during the week and give myself a second.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that works.
And then I just wanted to say too, thank you all so much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to, you all have my email, reach out. Happy to go through it in any detail. And as Fernando and I mentioned earlier, if you have any project ideas, please run them by us and chat with us about it, just so we can, even if it's not necessarily for advice as to how to do your project or changing things, it helps us have a sense of what we need to do to prepare to be able to support it. So it is really helpful for us to have that. So if we have feedback, it gives us a little time for us to be in preparation for that as well, if that makes sense. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. And then I have a little homework. I'm going to double check on the Facility Commission /FAC. Make sure everything's in the right spot because of that typo. And I'll also get as much information in regards to our endowment details for you all for next week. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Patty. Okay, so now are folks comfortable with Pass and I presenting? I know in the past folks did present if it was something more urgent, and I do believe that what Pass and I are going to present on regarding giving scholarships to commuter students is kind of urgent given the time that we're in. Perfect. Thank you so much. Fernando, can you pull it up, please? Amazing. So, hi everyone. We're going to be presenting tonight on a commuter student scholarship that Pass and I are hoping to present and hoping to distribute through our offices. Great. Next slide, please. So the impact of COVID-19 policy change. So with the move to remote learning, we are worried that commuter students will be among the most impacted populations. Students have been notified that they will not be compensated for the 2 weeks that they will be off campus and not using their commuter pass. And obviously, like going off of that, a lot of commuter students tend to be low income students, tend to be students that can't, afford rent nearby in Westwood. And for that reason, are being heavily impacted during this time because they spend a lot of money to be able to afford a parking permit. However, they won't be compensated for what is on the next slide. Fernando, if you can change the slide, please. Oh wait, it's not on this one. It's the next one. Pass will present that one. But the projected student impact as of 2018, 23.2% of students are commuter students, and that makes approximately 7,263 students. And then I'll hand it off to Pasa.
Yeah, so this is a very simple calculation. We got this from the UCLA transportation site. Basically, commuter students pay $258 per quarter for their permit. And considering the fact that the decision to go remote for 2 weeks was pretty abrupt, we just did the calculation based on, the value of that time in the permit, right? So it's just 258 times 2 divided by 10, and then you get that amount, which is $51.60. Very simple. So you can go to next.
Yeah.
All right, okay. So essentially, we're just asking for this initial amount of $5,000 to supply $150 scholarships for the fund. And the work to disperse these would be divided between my office and the Office of the Presidents. And if we see that there are a lot of applications and folks need this, we would apply for further funding. But this is kind of like, the first step to get our feet wet and see, what is the need and how many people are going to apply. So. And that's pretty much it. I will add that, I understand that everyone just saw surplus in the discussion item prior, but I would hope that since, again, this is an initial amount of $5,000 and, it seems that there's quite a bit of funds available, folks hopefully would be comfortable voting on this tonight, given how, the situation that's unfolding is quite urgent and students are definitely being affected. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions that you might have or concerns.
Yes, thank you so much. And I also want to thank Pasa because I know I did talk about this with a few people, and Pasa was really quick to jump on and support early on. So I really want to thank her for collaborating and doing this work over the winter break. Patty.
Great, thank you so much. Great idea, I love it. But I do want to say this is a perfect example of a good opportunity to chat with us and student government accounting prior. Not saying that we can't move forward and find solutions, but let's definitely, if this is voted on tonight, let's definitely meet. Even if it's not voted on tonight, let's meet and talk about the best way to distribute those dollars. Just because when it is student scholarships, there's a financial aid component. There's a way of different ways for us to distribute the funds. Perhaps it's Bruin card. There's a few different things that we need to look into in regards to options, the most effective way of doing this. Because like the other ones, sometimes we've done in the past, it would have been more of a reimbursement where there's a receipt and then a reimbursement. This is a little bit different. So logistically, we just have to work through it a little bit. But let's meet and talk about that in more detail.
Okay, Emily.
Thanks for presenting. I think it's a great idea. Actually, question for Patricia, would it be possible for, in terms of those logistics, is it possible for students to receive a direct, what's it called? A direct payment to them through a check rather than through a more indirect thing such as a Bruin card payment?
Not necessarily, that's what we really need to talk through, because this is, there's been times where there's be a check, but there has to be there's an expense related to that check. And so this is just us cutting checks, which is similar, I guess, with the relief funds, but that was, there's a little bit more complications in regards to our auditing, and, there's some exceptions being made during the beginning of COVID that we have to kind of just look into a little bit more. So I don't want to say, yes, we can just do that. I need to discuss with my accountants in more detail.
Okay, great. So going off of that, Patty, would we still be able to vote on it tonight and then, make adjustments as needed after if need be?
Yes. So that's definitely something. If you want to vote on this, then yeah, let's set up that meeting and find the best way to do this distribution in the way that you're hoping to see it.
Perfect. Okay. If that's the case, do any council members have any questions for either Pasa or myself? If not, could I get a motion?
I move to approve the commuter student scholarship.
Can I get a second, please?
A second.
second. Oh,
Okay, motion, Zimmerman seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. And yes, you are passive. Great, and by a vote of 13-0, the commuter student scholarship is approved for $5,000 of surplus. Great, okay. Moving on. This is an idea I wanted to run by everyone. I don't know if Fernando, you can pull up like the job loss scholarship that I had posted right there. So those are just statistics of a short survey that my office ran recently. I don't think we got as much engagement because it was New Year's Day, but I do want to kind of express like a lot of student workers aren't able to go into work right now because, you know, they tested positive for COVID or they are facing some other restriction in terms of like not being able to be on campus yet for whatever reason, or their jobs, as many of y'all know, jobs are not as available right now for students and a lot of places are closing down the first 2 weeks. And, you know, I just kind of wanted to bring this up to y'all because like my office along with passes will be running the other scholarship. I do think that this might be a good initiative if we want to pull together as USAC and create some sort of job loss scholarship for students who might have experienced job loss during the first 2 weeks. These are some of the statistics that we pulled from that, and y'all can go ahead and look through it. But I do think that if folks would be interested in that, you know, and if anyone is interested, like I just wanted to say if like your office would like to collaborate, I would really appreciate like anyone who might want to reach out and we can work together collaboratively to present some sort of proposal next week for surplus, you know, so that we can support students during this time. Momina.
Sorry, it was an old hand.
Oh, no, right. Patty?
Yeah, I think that this is, you know, a good initiative, but again, something that's definitely talk through. We may not have the resources to do a large scale scholarship. I'm not sure what size you're looking for. For example, with the relief funds, that was a very huge endeavor. And one of the only reasons we were able to do that type of funding and relief funds was because we didn't have any other work at the time other than being able to take care of that. And there's about, it can take up to, you know, a significant amount of time, but let's definitely talk through the best way to move forward. And if we can have someone from student government counting on these discussions, just so we can give some guidance. Another recommendation I do have that perhaps we can look into if you want to pull into the conversation is ECRT and some of the resources that they have available, and perhaps if they could also assist in kind of seeing the best ways to streamline. Because one of the things that does come up is, you know, in regards to access is having to apply to so many different places to be able to get support. So is there a way to kind of streamline some of these supports for the students? Because you will have to create, you know, a committee, a process, guidelines, et cetera. So
Yeah.
Same with the one previously too. Just
No. And I agree with that, Patty, but I also think that if we have funding and surplus that we can supply students, I think that we should utilize it as much as we can.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally agree. But just trying to find ways to, is there a way to streamline the way that we give those funds to students? Is something that I would recommend, but again, we can get to do that. So it's not doing it, it's what's the best way of activating it.
No, yeah, because that and then like the ECRT, a lot of the times like they just give students loans and they have to pay it back. And in this like instance, I think it's more so like students are in need of money right now, especially during these times. Prom?
Thank you for bringing this forward, Breeze. Definitely agree. I like, and I know we've, in the past 2 years we've done the COVID relief fund, but I also do know like it is very very large, heavy burden on like the on SGA essentially, because like there's not a lot of folks working there. But I do think like if possible, I did want to ask quickly, Patty, were you suggesting like working with ECRT and like essentially like them helping us distribute the funds somehow? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not making, you know, I can't make promises on you know, part of a different department, but just something to look into. Because sometimes I feel like giving additional resources to something that's already exists can sometimes make large impacts than creating a new fund.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it's definitely something to like look into. But I do also like similarly have like concern with like putting the power in the hands of ECRT. If we do like essentially like surrender the funds over. But I know like last year at one point like they were like we were allowed to like send the money through Venmo, or folks were or not Venmo, PayPal or something. We sent them. No, that didn't happen.
Yeah, we got to look into that in more detail. Definitely can't Venmo.
Okay. Yeah, but if like we can find like a way to essentially like, because I know it's the processing that's the largest part. And like if we do find an electronic way to like distribute, it is still the processing of the paperwork. But if possible to be able to distribute electronically, and if it's like a certain amount, this is just a suggestion, but like let's say if it was like a certain amount, like for example, like 20K, if that amount and it was able to be distributed electronically, if that amount was able to be given to like, let's say if Breeze's office was running it, like to Breeze's office to then distribute it, they could provide proof to SGA similarly to kind of how we like different processes work. So then it's not like that entire burden isn't necessarily on SGA. But definitely am interested in doing this and also just I think COVID relief still is very, very important at this point. And just like trying to utilize some of the surplus for that. But I do understand like it is really, it's a lot of work. So yeah.
Cass and then Emily.
Yeah, I do wanted to say that like I do think it's really important that we give back to students in need, especially during these hard times. And something that I wanted to bring up is that like I know that last year there was the COVID-19 relief grant and also the rent relief award that was going on at the same time, and it was requested from surplus I think winter quarter. And then I think like something that the two council members did last year to avoid like having SGA like working so much is just collaborating and like working together on a timeline. That way like the application process and the process of like SGA distributing those checks to students is like actually possible. So maybe um like offices that are interested in doing these type of proposals can collaborate and figure that out, because I know that's something that my office wants to do as well.
Okay, Emily.
Yeah, completely agree, Cass. And actually, like, I was gonna say something along those same lines. I guess like I think it would be really valuable to like try to bring Vong from SGA into these discussions, since he is the person who like very directly works with SGA and like knows like their throughput and capacity for handling these things, specifically the disbursement of checks. So that can like keep us all informed and like figure out like how to implement these programs. I think we should try our best to implement, because job loss is very bad right now. I think also speaking though to like the PayPal thing, maybe for like record's sake, it initially for actually not initially, but earlier on in the COVID-19 relief fund grants, we initially got the green light to use PayPal, but then SGA had a lot of logistical issues with using it. They were only actually like, PayPal essentially was just giving them a hard time, thinking that SGA was spammers and trying to send out high volumes of checks in a row. So like that throughput rate was really, really small. So then we had to like send out correction emails to everyone saying like, we're so sorry, but like it's going to end up taking a lot longer because we need to do physical checks. And like we had to do like a random sorting thing to get people on like the PayPal system, which was faster rather than the mailed check thing. But that was just like somewhat of an aside. So I think in summary, it would be great if we could communicate with SGA specifically about this.
Yeah, that might be helpful. And Patty, thank you so much. So maybe what we could do is set up a meeting to discuss like this scholarship, and then like Pass and I set up another one with Vong and yourself, and then maybe also ask if Vong can come next week and give like a special presentation.
Yeah,
to us
there's
all.
also the additional layer of if you're giving funds directly to students and the financial aid impacts and having to make sure that we're communicating. So there are a lot of layers when you're trying to give money to individuals and not for programs or not for initiatives in that way. So
Okay. Prom?
Yeah, I just want to ask about like financial aid impacts, like when we're giving students like funding, like we're not necessarily, because I guess like I look at it less as funding and more so as just like direct like mutual aid more so.
it's when any funds are given to students, it has to be reported through financial aid.
Okay.
Or they
Like-
have to either self-report or it needs to be, reported in some way. So that's why we need to, and this has been a new phenomenon in just the last couple of years that we're giving funds to individuals and not giving funds to initiatives and projects that impact a lot of individuals. So, that's not necessarily what our funding bodies are set up to do. So, but yeah, we'll just discuss more and look into it. But
Okay, great. Prom, did you have another question? Sorry. Oh, no.
Sorry.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to present that. I'll put it in the chat if folks are interested, and then we can look from there to kind of spend the next week possibly talking to admin and figuring out a way for like us to provide the scholarship. But great. I don't see anything else on the agenda, so I will be I move to adjourn this meeting. Oh,
There's the
yeah,
winter
sorry.
COVID protocol discussion.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Yay. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry. So quickly, I just wanted to discuss like collective advocacy efforts that like we as USAC can do like in collaboration with some other student leaders in other spaces to kind of get like admin to acknowledge like the ongoing concerns that have already been like raised by, for example, like DSU regarding like the hybrid situation of like giving students the option to like have that remote option. And so there were some ideas that we kind of threw around in this like letter that is like a very rough draft, and we're having some folks review because it was literally just like drafted yesterday. And I wanted to give folks the opportunity to look through it so that they can see like the concerns that have been like raised by ourselves as students, leaders, as well as like other students across campus. And let me just drop the letter in the chat for y'all to view. And I could share my screen too if folks want that. I'll go ahead and do that. Yeah, even upon doing like some personal research, like seeing that like the Omicron variant is like 2.8 times like as infectious as Delta, and then like 10 times as infectious as the original virus. Like we all know that a lot of folks are like getting the virus, and it's really a concern to like know that we might be going in person like fully within the next 2 weeks. And so just some things that have been discussed so far. I'm just going to jump to the end real quick, is like offering at the very minimum the option for students to opt in for online and recorded instruction for all classes offered in person with no penalty. Like not mandating in-person attendance for students, professors, and teaching assistants as well. Because it's not like only us as students that are concerned about COVID and the possibility of getting the virus. It's also like professors that have to worry about their families and livelihoods, and teaching assistants as well. And then another thing that was discussed is like offering residents on the Hill like the option to receive a full refund for the decision to cancel or defer their winter quarter housing. And then another idea that was thrown out was like providing free N95 masks for members of the campus community, like including students, faculty, and staff, just so that like the university is making like active efforts to support students' safety if they are like requiring us to be in person. But yeah, I just wanted to have like a little discussion regarding like other ideas that folks might have to kind of like push admin to promote like the safety and well-being of students, because we're all like really concerned about things that are going on right now. Yeah, sorry if I didn't give you guys enough time to read through, but go ahead and read through.
Sarah.
Hi. Yeah, first, Haley, thank you so much for all the work you put into this effort. This letter, it looks really great. This might be a discussion that we could have if and when we are able to secure like free masks for people. But I was wondering what y'all thought about asking the university to make a recommendation for students to start using medical grade masks, um, and opting for that over cloth masks or like bandanas I've seen people just have over their faces. I don't have like research off the top of my head, but I know there's like recommendations now to upgrade like mask security just due to the transmissibility of the new variant.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know I brought this up like the COVID recovery task force meeting as well. So that I think would be a good point to include. Tassa?
I mean, I think I would caution because, I mean, I've been reading the news and they are saying that we are going to be very likely that there's going to be supply chain shortages like in 2020. So like that's a problem too, right? Like if the university buys a bulk of masks, then I don't know what the effect would be on healthcare providers if, you know, case rates are going the way that they are, right? Like, I mean, it'd be really nice if we could get everyone an N95, but I don't know if the resources are there for that. Does that make sense?
Can I quickly add to what Pasta was saying?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I also wanted to just caution because of that, like being able to like purchase an N95 mask right now, like if they do try to like, even if like it's encouraging it or try to require it, it doesn't mean students are going to be able to get them unless the university is able to actually provide it. So like I think it would be important to make sure like to be like, you guys need to provide them, because also like they have been saying like medical grade masks are what is actually going to help stop transmission, especially if they're trying to push us back in person at all. So it'd just be irresponsible to have like to have folks in person in cloth masks without providing N95s, but also requiring them to like not everyone can pay for it if you can even access it at all. 'Cause like there's just been surging prices on them, and also just like the supply chain shortages. So
Yeah, and I even think that might be a good initiative that we as USAC could look into as well, because we do have surplus right now. So that is something we can look into if students might not be able to afford them right now. Passa?
Oh yeah, just wanted to add, I think like, you know, just for everyone's like information, there's also like new recommendations coming out about like double masking, which like, you know, definitely people who are like the academic experts in this are going to be talking about. So a lot of information is changing, and I think those are all things that will affect like the dynamics of the supply chain and how much is available. So yeah, a lot to think about.
Yeah. But I think okay, Jane and then Prom.
Yeah, the thing I just wanted to add real quick, is that we could also put in something. I'm not sure. I just ran into this issue at like work today with someone testing positive, is that I believe the like university is providing like 10 days of quarantine housing with options to leave earlier, but some people might feel more comfortable like if they're given the option to leave earlier to be in quarantine for like 14 days or something like that. I don't know. I can look into that, but that was just something that I wanted to mention, is like ensuring that the meeting, or ensuring that the university is providing like adequate quarantine rooms.
Okay, perfect. Prom.
Also wanted to ask / add if it could be added in here about like the N95 masks. Like if they're not going to be providing masks to students, then they need to ensure that there is a hybrid version, because like if medical professionals are saying that like people should be wearing medical grade masks, and they know that there's a supply chain shortage, and they know it's also not accessible, then either they need to provide it or not force students to come in person and have protections for that. So yeah, I don't know if that is in there to be added. But.
Perfect. Jane again.
Oh, sorry. Old.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was sorry, I can't raise my hand. But yeah, I was just thinking like advocating for students, if they do like the hybrid thing, advocating for students who do choose to go in person, like if they are able to like provide those N95 masks for that population, that would also be like a consideration, because I feel like a lot of students won't even choose to go in person. Personally, I would not. So that might be like a more feasible option as well. But yes, we'll make those respective edits to this.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, if not, okay, Fernando. Oh, no worries. Thank you, Fernando. Okay. And with that, I move to end the meeting at 8:54 p.m.
Recording stopped.